revolutionaries in Ireland appealed to Germany to help the Irish against England. Of course, Germany was only too happy to do that. But because Great Britain had such a seafaring power, there was huge, the German ship there were a few German ships that got captured off the south coast of Ireland and they didn't make any hit. So this year, you will be in Ireland at a very momentous time because it's celebrating the 100th anniversary of freedom. Finally, after all these risings and saying we want our land back, we deserve to be treated as good people. We want our church back. The 1916 rising was the final moment that Ireland, that now we can say we're Irish people instead of saying that we're British. That didn't end it necessarily because England decided to, well, they weren't very happy. And the top 16 people, if you were 3, 6, to there, you were all the 16 people who led the rising. After a week, you were defeated. And after your court-martial and your trial, what happened to those 16 people? What do you think the British did?
This is alcohol.
Now, when we see about what ISIS is doing today, that's terrible. But if you have a chance to go, I think you may be able to go capture it with your group, and I don't know if you'll be able to go to Kilmainham jail. All 16 lined up, and you're all executed. And there's some very wonderful, that's where Seamus Healy writes some of his wonderful poem about those men. They were educated men, they were poets, they were leaders, and they gave their lives. They were very brave to take on the British Empire. I think it's in that Notre Dame magazine, this issue that says the 1916 rising in Ireland was like a pin pierced the heart of the empire. Because it was the first time that a small colony, this little island here, rose up, really took a real stab at the British. And they probably, we wouldn't be talking like this today if they hadn't been executed. Because people really said they were crazy, we should never have the rising, it should never have happened. The thing that sealed it was, what do you think? What turns us against ISIS so much? The executions. My God, the whole world, the United States, and if you have ancestors that were living here, and have been here in this, and your grandparents or great-grandparents, they would know about this. America was outraged. The leaders of Ireland were absolutely held now. How could Britain do this? Take these 16 men who rose, and there were some very strong women too, because remember the ancient Celts were strong, the ancient Celtic women. They were taken out at dawn and shot. And there's some great songs written about it. One man, Joseph Plunkett, was married in prison. And if you go to Kilmainham jail, you'll see the altar where he and his bride, he was married there. And there's a great poem. See, in the ancient Celtic world, there was a great love for nature. And the Roman civilization and Greco-Roman kind of obliterated to some extent. And here's a great poem that he wrote in prison. Because it chose Easter as a very special time. We could go into why it would be Easter, with the rising, the resurrection, Jesus and all that. And he has a great poem that he wrote. And it begins by saying, I see his blood upon the rose, and in the stars, the glory of his eyes. His body gleams amid eternal snows. His tears fall from the skies. That was Joseph Mary Plunkett, one of those people who was taken out for shot. Imagine you can write poetry and you went out to your execution, and you know that you're going to be, you knew that the other people, like you knew that these 3 people were being shot, so you knew you were going to be called out soon. And yet, there was such a commitment, and I believe that's going back to the ancient Celtic days. So Britain wasn't too happy. He executed the people. There was an outrage around the world, and Churchill you may have heard his name, was a pretty influential person. And great leaders in England, Lloyd George and other English dignitaries said, all right, we'll sign a treaty. Come to England and we'll sign a treaty. Now the Irish were not skillful negotiators. Those of you who have been in service to your country know you have to negotiate a little bit. They were not as skillful negotiators as the British. So England said to them, all right, we will give you 26 counties, but we're going to keep 6 counties to ourselves. And that's why on this map, see see what this point is on there? It says Northern Ireland, UK. What does the UK mean? United Kingdom. We still keep this piece. I wonder why. They said, we'll give you the 26 counties and you can go home. We'll execute these people here. Why would you keep the 6 counties? Excuse me?
Ports are.
The ports, the rich part of it. Well, mostly Protestant because they had been planted very strongly by Queen Elizabeth. Was the ports, huge ports, right close to England. He also had great resources like the linen mills were there. So they had, Patrick said about, England was very intentional. They weren't going over to Africa or India just because we'd like to sit down with tea for tea. You'd be kept down on the lower rungs of the ladder and we'd be bossing you all around, British. So they kept the north. And the treaty was a very sad chapter in Irish history. Because there were some people in Ireland that said, good, at least we got 26 counties and we can be at peace. And there were others who said, you sold us out. And there's a great movie on it about the man who signed the treaty, Michael Collins, who was eventually shot, but that's a whole other. The history is since then has been very interesting. And that's why you had the troubles in the north. And that's why you still have some real, up till very recently, till 1998, with the Good Friday, was it 98?
4, right?
But it was 6. Well, mid-90s, yeah, mid-90s.
That they finally, because again, just like we said, Britain is going to keep this little piece for itself because of its contingency ports, because of all that. And that has been a real bone of contention for the Irish people who really want the little island back. When I would go home, it's not as bad now, but when the border was there, they took away the border, and I'll never forget, we were going home for my mother's funeral, and my brother was in England. A lot of the Irish went to England for work because the country was poor and they were able to get to England easier. And as we're going there, my mother was, see that town there that says Monaghan? My mother was in I'm originally from Sligo, but my mother was in a hospital in Monaghan. And as we're, in order to get from Dublin to Monaghan, if you can visualize this, I wish I could know how to draw a line here, but visualize from Dublin to Monaghan, you had to go through the north. And there was a border. You know, Trump is saying build a wall. That's what the British did with the north of Ireland. There was a wall, and there were soldiers at the wall. So we're rushing, my brother's driving like crazy, fast, and we're rushing, and we go across the border, to go to the border, and all of a sudden these soldiers jump out at us with their guns drawn. And it was the first time that I really, and of course we were just anxious to get to the hospital so we could be there before my mother died. And it was such, into the car, I said, like an American passport. Of course I was dressed like a veil and everything on, which didn't help me, because these were the British, very anti-Catholic. It was a real experience of what it's like to be in another part of the country and being put down. And thanks be to God, we did get to my mother's bedside, but he could easily have not gone there. He could have cared less. We were trying to say, I was crying, my sister was crying, we were like banshees in the car. That made them worse. They thought people died of they were so anti personhood, I would say. So it was an interesting experience. Now, thank God, the border is gone. Those British soldiers aren't there. And they were like little kids with these big guns right at you. And so as we come up to 2016, and I've taken you through about 4,000 years of history, the country that you're visiting has a very rich and noble and warlike history, and it has survived. And one of the great gifts, and it was always fascinating to me, that despite all the invasions, all of the things that happened in Ireland, that the Irish people kept their culture, kept their faith. Irish, proportionately, for the size of the country, has sent more missionaries around the world to bring the message of the gospel than any other size of a country in the world. So when you, in fact, I meet some students here from West Africa, Ghana or Nigeria or somewhere, and they have had Irish priests or Irish sisters in school in some of these countries. Of course, that's changing now, the whole secularization. But it has always been a great moment of, I hesitate to say pride, but a great moment of joy to me, that despite all this, that the Irish people kept their sense of history, culture, and faith. And what I would say to each of you, from whatever background you're from, wherever you're from, that you have that same sense of a commitment to your ancestry. Find out where it is. Get to know something of your rootedness. There's a lot of people in the United States kind of, they don't know where, they don't have a sense of that. And I think you've lost something there. You find out, you who are going now to this experience, yeah, you're going over there to play rugby. But there's more than rugby. There's a sense that you can experience something of another culture in a country that really has suffered, not just for their faith, but suffered to keep their sense of belonging, to keep their sense of history, to keep their sense of music. You know, Ireland is the only country in the world that has a musical instrument as its national symbol. We have two national symbols. One is the shamrock, and the other is the, what's the musical instrument that Ireland has as a national symbol? The harp. Now, despite the fact that Budweiser and Barnaby's think that the shamrock and the harp is part of their tradition, it's not. If you get the message. The harp, because Ireland has had a wonderful history, despite all the suffering, that they could keep the music and the dancing and the sense of storytelling alive. And last night in the Ministry Center, we had an example of that. A Jesuit priest whose father came from Ireland, and he had this in his DNA, you would say. He played the accordion for us. I'm sorry that this group would have loved it. He taught us some Irish dances, and there's a sense of music and hope. Regardless of what they suffered, there was always a sense of hope and joy and a commitment to something beyond who they were. These men in 1916 had that they could write poetry in prison. And I think those of us who are coming out of Irish background have the same thing. Now, I talked way too long. Way too long. I was going to talk for 20 minutes and ask the rest for questions. I hope it made sense. You want to insult me or anything by saying that. Anybody have a question that you always wanted to ask me and you never had the chance before? You know where I am. If you don't have the chance to ask me a question now, you can always ask. Yes, Don.
I just have, one question. So, do you think the unification of Ireland is still important to the people there, and are you hopeful to?
I always been. Growing up, there was a lot. I grew up in a family where my father was deaf. Lord mercy on him, he was deaf because he was injured in a battle with the British, so he lost his hearing. And I think if people want to get in this room.
Yeah, there's a class after.
Yeah. rebellious. So yeah, I think there's,
You know, they have a different currency. Ireland has the euro, the north of Ireland has the sterling. You go into the north, you're like in another country.
I mean, does that make sense today in this little island that you have to go into another? So,
You know, I told you that our family was evicted, we were thrown out of our land, we have lost everything.
we're going to be evicted from this room, but I would love to.